It's the old Doctor Who show, episode number 45, The Arc of Infinity.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a jelly, baby?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flows, and the TARDIS will be free of the force field.
But the TARDIS is more than a machine, Stephen. It's like a person, you see.
Resulting reaction, describe it. Are you ready?
Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show, your classic tri-weekly Doctor Who review podcast, classic Doctor Who review podcast. I am your host, Eric Grissom.
And I'm your other host, Dan Johnson.
And we're back after 3 long weeks, although they felt like short weeks. Like,
they
I
were
couldn't
very
believe,
short
like,
weeks.
all of a sudden we were back in the saddle, the bedazzled Doctor Who saddle, to talk about arcs and infinity. How have you been, Dan, in the last 3 weeks? Since when we're done talking, we hate each other.
We don't speak at all.
We don't speak at all. I don't even look at his picture that I keep by my bed.
I barely stick pins into the voodoo doll of you that I have. I've been good. Things have been not nice. Not a whole lot to report.
No, we're getting a new Doctor today.
Yeah.
Or a new Doctor Who today. Because it's okay to say Doctor Who. I think I've talked about that before.
So I've had to completely stay off of that part of Twitter because. But I mean, what's the point? So we both hate spoilers.
Yeah,
we try not to get spoiled.
Right, and when I think we both agree that we feel that the BBC almost goes out of their way to squeeze any joy out of the franchise. There's no mystery. You've mentioned it before, like even on the, next time on or whatever, next time on Doctor Who, they'll show a character or some kind of plot twist that happens just to drum up a buzz for a show that everybody's freaking out about anyway.
Right, I don't see how that adds anything to it. Like the last one where it's like, there's the Master. Like, okay,
right.
we would have.
They need to be more selective, I think, in their teases. But whatever,
Anyway, but this seems like the ultimate spoiler where they're having such fanfare around announcing who the next Doctor is going to be. It's bad enough to know, just because we live in a real world, that the actor is choosing not to continue the character. So we know that it's going to happen. We don't know the exact details, but we do know who he's going to regenerate into. Do you recall having the same reaction for all the previous New Who's when they came in?
Well, we talked about this, I think, in the beginning, whereas I had no idea that Christopher Eccleston was only doing a season.
No, I didn't.
I had no idea who David Tennant was. So that whole regeneration was a complete surprise and wonderful. I was very disappointed because Christopher Eccleston I thought was great and was very underrated, but I had no idea. And thinking to Matt Smith, I feel like I avoided the news enough because they announced him, right? That was a big deal.
Yeah,
I feel like I did whatever I could, and I can't remember if I succeeded in not knowing that change.
I can't imagine how that's even possible because
Peter
we both
Capaldi, it was worse. It felt like I couldn't escape that picture where he sort of looked like Doctor Strange in his cloak. Like I feel like that was everywhere, and I knew, it's Peter Capaldi,
And you had some prior knowledge of who he was.
I knew who he was, so I was.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to remember if I had started the reboot. I think I started it late, so I came to it after Tenet had already started, maybe, or maybe I just don't recall the transition from Eccleston to Tenet being such a huge publicity thing. Maybe it was, or maybe it was not here.
The show wasn't. The show was is a institution, but it wasn't at the level that it was now. It was still sort of the show on Sci-Fi. In the States anyway, that's where it had appeared.
That's right. And it was Matt Smith. I think the announcement of Matt Smith, and then through the Matt Smith years, that it really blew up in the United States, and now it's what it is. So I guess it's just going to get worse. Yeah. So that's all said. There's no way that we can avoid knowing who that is until Christmas. Like it can't be done.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I'm going to try just as a joke because I want to see how long.
Oh, no.
Today we're recording this on Sunday. So it's at the tennis match, right? That's where it's being announced, or something to do with
I've
tennis?
literally tried not to pay any attention to it, so I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong about
I
that.
saw there was
it's happening today. We'll see. I mean, I'm going to try to avoid... I know it's not going to happen. Do you have any theories about who you think it's going to be? Or
No, I have no theories about who it is. I have things that I'd like to see. I mean, I would love to see a person of color or a woman. I don't see why you couldn't tell those stories and have them being very compelling from a different point of view. So that might be interesting, but no, I don't have any preference. I'm always disappointed with the new Doctor for the first couple of episodes, and then they really find their stride.
Got over that with Peter Capaldi.
No, not until
disappointed.
recently.
Yeah.
Not until recently. No, that's not fair, because I loved him in his first story. I thought he was fantastic in his regeneration story. I just hated everything after that for a season or two.
Yeah, well, I think that's for some people, I feel like, you learn a certain thing and you have your own expectations, and when those expectations aren't met, it's internalized as as a negative thing, and then eventually you realize that you're giving the story a better chance.
But we get the same thing with the classic Doctors regenerating too. You see, okay, the actor settling in to figure out what choices they're going to make, and the writers are figuring out, oh, this actor has these particular strengths, so we'll write for them. So you definitely see that, the machine kind of gets firing on all gears a little bit later. So we definitely saw that with Davison, I think, most recently. Tom Baker kind of hit the ground running. I guess, I don't know. It just didn't feel like as big a thing. And for us, we're not seeing every single story. And we're seeing them so compressed because we're not waiting week by week for every 25-minute episode of the story to come out. So I guess it feels a little bit different. But
all right. So we're going to find out today. Neither of us want to know.
But we're going to. Out. It's impossible to avoid it.
We also saw the end of season 10.
Yeah.
Just want to talk very briefly. I mean, I think we talked a little bit about individual episodes, so we don't need to individual episodes. In that case, I can call them episodes.
You can say it an episode.
So we won't get too much into that, but I feel like, I guess this is a spoiler if you have not seen season 10, and we do have some fans that only are watching the classic series and are working their way up to the new stuff, which is
that's right.
Stuff
that was
2005.
Cool. Yeah.
So I'm going to spoil the end of season 10 here. So
and we should only talk about this for a minute maybe.
Yeah,
so no big deal.
I'll actually put in the show notes the time that we get back to the review, just for
Eric,
people.
You are a quality podcaster.
I'm going to do that. But okay, so now everybody's gone. How great was it that
everybody's
gone? The whole podcast is shut down.
It's you and me, buddy.
But I loved the end of the last two episodes of season 10 were some of the best, I think, of the whole season.
I think of the whole Capaldi run.
Yeah,
honestly,
I would agree with that.
Without a doubt.
How many were there total episodes?
Of the season?
Yeah, of the season.
Ooh. Oh,
Doesn't
gosh,
matter.
we don't
Second
do our
last
research.
One, I felt like it was even stronger than the finale.
Yeah.
But in any case, both were
great.
great. And working in Hartnell, or the actor playing Hartnell from Space and Time was awesome. Like that,
was so good.
That I thought was really well executed, and just I can't wait now for the Christmas episode.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's what the Christmas episode is.
But the reason
him learning how to die, and who's he talking to? The first Doctor to ever regenerate, and what he went through.
Yeah.
Because you have all this, Peter Capaldi doesn't want to go, and he did say that David Tennant line.
But it was as a David Tennant, like it was. Yes, I liked that moment though.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I just feel like,
and he did the jelly babies earlier, and it's all these references, which is really nice. It felt good.
Do you ever find that Stephen Moffat just leans too heavily on remember this stuff? Like
he's one of the ultimate fans. He is an ultimate fan,
and then it almost it's too much for me. But whatever. That's
I know what you mean.
Personal gripe.
What's important for our viewing of it is that it brought back the classic Cybermans, which is really cool. Yeah. I mean, it was such a callback to the original design without being the exact cheesy design. Like it was that nice blend of modern techniques of creating and budget. Actually, it was really just budget. It was budget, but still recreating these old Cybermen, which was just great.
Did you think it worked? I thought it still held up. I watched.
Oh, it worked fantastically. Yeah. I mean, especially and then you have the comparison of the those classic Cybermen versus these new battle mode ones in the same shot, and I honestly preferred the classic ones so much because the new ones just look so over-designed.
Yeah.
So, which I didn't have a problem with them previously when we saw them in the new series. I thought they're okay. Yeah, that's the Cybermen because I didn't have any exposure to the originals. So now seeing them side by side, it's like, oh, I really actually preferred the original design with a budget.
Yeah, and I
great.
think it worked too because the leaning into the low budget nature of it, or it gave it a sense of being creepy, and it became like a horror, like a body horror thing.
It totally did. Yeah. I mean, so that said, I mean, I love those stories. I kind of have a little bit of an issue of the ending. Well, not the ending, but the way that Bill takes off. That kind of like, oh, really? Because that felt very much like
fly among the stars and run into Clara with her floating restaurant.
Yeah, which I'd rather follow that. I'd love to see the diner in space.
I'm very happy though that they brought back the woman from the first episode of this season. That they had fallen in love, so they played up that whole love story. When we first meet Bill, she meets that girl who. We made a point of like, did they stop looking for her? What about her parents that,
I didn't quite feel like that relationship was earned entirely, but when you have 44 minutes of a story to get through, you can't really do that.
She served her fries. It was a
love at first
among
fry.
The stars. Yeah. A little strange too, because she's also another entity. It's not like it's the same woman. It's just an entity that took the appearance of one and probably inherited some of her emotions and memories and stuff. But it also had its own set. It's not quite the same woman, but whatever. We'll let it go.
Yeah. No, I think it's interesting, but it just felt a little bit not easy, but like, okay,
Is Bill gone?
I don't think so.
I hope
I
not.
wouldn't think so. No.
We're going to see her having lost her, and then she's going to have some sort of emotional stuff to work through.
I don't know. She's gonna have to make a choice and come back, and she's gonna come back alive because this creature can, rebuild her again. So I don't know. It could be
Speaking
of
coming back from other dimensions or worlds into ours,
yes.
That sounds a lot like the plot to Arc of Infinity. Should we jump into that?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's hit the button.
All right. Whoop.
The space-time parameters of the Matrix have been invaded by a creature from the antimatter world. We know its composition and how unstable is the magnetism that shields it. The creature must be expelled immediately if we are to avert disaster.
Without knowing its purpose here.
Its presence here must be our first concern. Antimatter cannot coexist in harmony in our universe.
Lord President, this creature is here now because it bonded with me. To do so, it needed something very special. Full and precise details of my biological makeup. Now, I didn't pass this information on. Somebody did. The question is, who?
We considered this, Doctor, but the implications are quite preposterous.
Chancellor, can bonding occur without the full imprint of a so-called bioscan?
Well, not to my knowledge. But the power of this creature is outside the limits of what we know, Doctor.
Lord President, I asked for time to have this fully investigated.
I'm sorry, Doctor, but we must deal with the situation as it exists now. The time factor involved leaves only one course of action open to us. Commander! You know that capital punishment has long been abolished here in Gallifrey. But there is a precedent for a situation like this. Have you nothing further to say, Doctor?
I have a great deal to say.
You can't do this. You must destroy the creature.
Child, you think we have not considered this? The creature is shielded. We have no way of tracing it.
So you're prepared to kill the Doctor?
Commander! Remove the Doctor to the security compound. As soon as the warrant is issued, you will convey him to a place of termination.
All right, this is the Arc of Infinity. This is the first story of the 20th season, 1983. Who could forget that wonderful year? Written by Johnny Byrne and directed by Ron Jones of the Ron Town Joneses. The Doctor finds himself the target of a past enemy, the disgraced Time Lord Omega. Omega. I'm going to probably say Omega.
I'm going to say Omega.
Too many times it's in my notes, but Omega. Omega, a being of pure antimatter, devises a plan to bond with the Doctor and cross over into our dimension. The Doctor must find a way to stop Omega uncover a double agent in the High Council, and survive a death sentence, all while Nyssa feigns interest in reuniting with Tegan. Dan, what did you think of Arc of Infinity, where we get to go back and see Omega again, which we had already witnessed in the Three Doctors?
Yeah, this is kind of, for me, like, it's got a lot of pluses and minuses for me. It's very heavy on the myth arc, which I've mentioned
right
1,000 times that I love. Yeah, I love all that, so that makes me really happy. Even though I had to look up a whole lot of stuff, because we get through these things every 3 weeks, and we kind of plow through them, and then I immediately delete them from my brain drive, and I can't remember stuff, so I had to refresh myself on a bunch of these things. But it was that part was cool. I loved some of the set and setting was really great. I actually liked the stuff on Gallifrey a lot. The intrigue was
Colin Baker carting around that whole.
Do you want to get to that already?
Well, I don't know. We're gonna all over the place, but
his helmet or his helmet hair?
Helmet. It's like, just put it down. You know what I mean?
No,
you're not gonna put it on. Everybody else is wearing their helmet. He's just sitting there with that dumb helmet the whole time. But yeah,
it doesn't fit over his hair.
It doesn't fit over.
It doesn't fit. Well, so what was your reaction when you saw Colin Baker? Because mine was.
I was like, oh,
is that Colin Baker?
Yeah,
like,
no.
Is that just someone who looks a whole freaking lot like Colin Baker? Like, what's happening?
I had heard he had been in the show before.
Oh, I had no idea.
I didn't know what storyline it was, so seeing him wasn't a surprise.
Oh man, no! It took me. I just did a complete double take because I was not aware of that at all. So this is his debut on Doctor Who. Obviously not playing the same character. And we've seen this a whole bunch of times with other people doing the same thing. But this is so close to when he actually.
It's like a year, a little more than a year, right?
After this season, at the end of the next season, he takes over. So it just seems really, like, real close to when he's going to actually come onto the show. I'm guaranteed. I didn't do any research in ahead because I don't want to get any spoilers, but it does make me wonder the whole thing with Capaldi right now and the fact that he had played a character on before and then had the Doctor had taken his face on purpose. Like, they made a huge deal out of that, which is strange because they never did with Amy Pond. Karen had been on the show previously in the same story actually as Capaldi. They did make reference back. I don't know if you're a Torchwood fan, but Gwen had the actress had done one story of Who, and they actually make reference to that there's echoes of these people throughout time and whatever. So yeah. But I just wonder, like, is there going to be any acknowledgement of it? I'm gonna guess there's not. No. Here's why: because in this story, they make no freaking reference to Tegan until she shows up.
Tegan has a weird thing.
Nothing.
I made a joke in the beginning, but when the Doctor tells Nyssa at one point that Tegan is around, or he found Tegan, she feigns any kind of interest. There's actually two moments. Nyssa smiles when she hears the creature has Tegan in a weird way. Like the Doctor tells her and she walks up, and then Nyssa does this like happy sort of like thing where she's like happy that Tegan's getting tortured, and then later when you find out that Tegan is okay, she does the reverse. She sort of has a pained smile. Yeah, you're gonna have to gift that thing later. It's in my head. There's this whole little weird psychological war going on between the two of them.
Perhaps. I'm not going to discount your feelings on that one, but I did notice that she had her back to the Doctor the first time whenever he says that he has, that Omega has Tegan, and she does have that smile.
She has a weird smile.
But I did read it as, Tegan's.
You will when you,
you're right.
when you
you're
watch
right.
the scene again when she finds out she's unharmed and she's got this horrible pain. She's trying to hold that smile together, but she's like, oh, man.
Well, that one might be ambiguous about what she's actually feeling, though you're starting to convince me. What's not ambiguous is the very final 3 seconds of the story when Tegan's there and says to the Doctor, well, I guess you're stuck with me. And I guess
he does not look happy.
He does not like that at all. One of our listeners, Bernard, wrote in about that. So I had to put together the quick reaction GIF. So that's up on our Twitter timeline if you guys want to see it. But it's obvious and painful, and I want to know what's in the doctor's head at that point?
He looks visibly pained.
He does.
At the thought.
So to be charitable, he's worried about her coming along because he doesn't want to put her in danger and she's been safe on Earth. I don't know. I can't imagine what the positive... Like, they left it in for a reason. Like, they didn't have to have that take where the doctor looks like that.
They do not look happy.
At all.
As far as she's concerned, too, she was abandoned. I mean, they thought that she wanted to stay there. But
Did they? No.
I think they thought that... Don't they make a comment? It was just the last story that we did.
I know, but...
Where, like, oh, it's great, because, you know, every time we see her, there's always a point of one scene where she's like, I want to go back to the airport. Yeah. And then they finally get her back to the airport. And I thought Nisa and the doctor have some back and forth where they're like, well, at least she's back to where she is when they're leaving. They don't purposely leave her there. They think that she wants to stay there.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't think it's like a cruel thing where they're like trying to abandon her. It seems more of a misunderstanding, and then Tegan sees them leave and she's sad.
Right.
That's the way I took it.
Yeah. I mean, so how much time do you think has passed between when Tegan got left behind? Because I'm saying she got left behind. Got left behind, and when she went to
stop on that. You think they purposely left her behind? Right?
No, I just think that whole exiting was very.
Did you do any research? Did she have to do a movie or something? Like, why?
I can't imagine
any of that in there, because she comes right back.
I feel like it was more of a plot like cliffhanger thing, because that was the end of the previous season, and this is she was gone. Right. She's a companion who left and came back.
Or was it a contract negotiation? Like,
2 stories.
We don't have to write you back in. Like, who knows what is really.
She had the goods on GNT.
She had to get that killer new haircut. I was like,
I love the haircut.
Who is Tegan all of a sudden? Yeah, no,
she's got the haircut. She's got the Madonna bustier is looking really something else on her. Okay, so Time Flight, immediately preceded this story, but it was hard to tell like how much of the gap of time had happened. I guess it was just for me.
Enough
it felt
for her
weird
to get fired.
That was enough for her to lose her dream job. This is the only thing she ever wanted in the world, and
she spends her whole life trying to just be on a plane, and they put her on a plane. They're like, yeah, you're not very good at this.
Eric, do you think they fired Tegan because she was never on time?
Oh, that was terrible.
Okay.
No, but I do like that they make a point of her getting fired.
Yeah.
Like they needed an excuse. She couldn't just quit and go with him. Like,
well,
it was like, I got no other option.
She needed an excuse to get to Amsterdam.
She needed a reason for being it. But why being in Amsterdam? Just because of the water. But there's water everywhere. Maybe they had that location or something.
No, there was
glad,
something.
like, the location was cool.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we're kind of jumping ahead, but when the doctor and Nisa get to Amsterdam and they finally find the crypt, the doctor makes some offhanded comment, which is just like, I guess you have to. One of those things you have to go with it. Right, exactly. Amsterdam's below sea level to maintain the pressure for the fusion conversion. I guess okay, because it's right on the curvature of the Arc of Infinity that got moved over Amsterdam. It's just one of those like, all right, I guess that's what we're doing for this story, and just you kind of go with it. But should we just back up and kind of go through it a little bit more?
It don't matter. You
can
go all over the place.
All right. Well, I mean, I like the beginning, starting with immediately. You know that we're dealing with Gallifreyan Time Lords because you see the figure with the back silhouetted with the unmistakable Time Lord headdress. I don't know what you want to call it, but like that big, you can't miss it. While he's talking to some alien, whatever. I liked the Omega's costume in this.
More than the original one? Because I actually prefer the original one. I thought was cooler looking. This one it was interesting, but later on, I know you're trying to go to the beginning, I'm going to the end. But when he's freaking out and he's literally like mushing the sides, it just doesn't. Like the old one was like that flat. It had it almost feel like a steel helmet. Yeah. Whereas this is like an insect, like.
It did have that feel, yeah.
More his head. I guess it is. Is it his head?
I don't think it is his head. I felt like, I mean, it's never explained, but was that like some sort of suit that allowed him to exist in I don't know.
Perhaps.
I don't know what it was.
In any case, it wasn't explained. They redesigned his look since we saw him last.
Which meant that
it just felt cheaper to me.
You think this one felt cheaper?
Yeah, like that.
I liked it.
It seemed like I don't know. It didn't take you out a little bit when he was mushing.
Well, when he mushed it, yeah,
from the sides, and I was like,
I mean,
God, come on.
You saw a whole bunch, earlier than that, you see like all this liquid running out of it, and he's starting to kind of melt and whatever, and then he mushes it. And I did have the thought was like, oh, did he do that by accident? And they're just like, I guess we'll have to keep it, so that they just kept going with it. So maybe, but the initial appearance of him, they redesigned it so you don't know that it's Omega. In fact, he's in the first 2 episodes of the story, he's credited as the Renegade.
Yeah. Now I was gonna say, did you know?
Nope.
It was Omega or
nope.
Omega was in
I'm going to say Omega because I'm American, but no, I didn't. Did you?
I found out thanks to a description, though. I didn't know until, I don't know what episode, but on BritBox
3 would be.
They say, like, right in the description of the episode,
didn't read any of those.
It said, I was like going to the next episode, and then I looked, and it said, Omega does this, and it's like, oh, man.
Yeah, no, you can't, on BritBox, as much as we love the service, we're not brought to you by BritBox, but it gives you like the thumbnails and description for each of them in that story. I can't avoid looking at the thumbnails because you just can't. But I have been trying to not read them because they just spoil everything.
Totally unrelated side note, but I just want to give props to good user experience. Showtime will show you, like for Twin Peaks, everything gets a generic thumbnail of the episode until you watch it, and then it's a still from that show. So you don't get any spoilers. At least it does it on the iOS app, which I think is just a great idea, and I wish everybody followed suit.
That is a really cool idea. I had noticed that when you go to select it, it is just that, superimposed over the Twin Peaks thing. But I didn't notice that.
Yeah, go back to what you've seen, and you'll see.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
I like that.
But anyway, keep going.
Yeah. So
we got
anyway,
so
just like
to go into.
So much backpacking, but no, I like that. I like the intro to this was mysterious from the beginning, and I knew that it's going to be a Time Lord thing, so it's going to be myth arc. So I got excited right away. It also had, it felt like Ming the Merciless was in a Sleestack cave. You're playing with the little light up cubes as you plug them in. There's a very Land of the Lost feeling there, which just warms my heart. Yeah, I mean, we don't have to go through plot stuff. They get someone has stolen the biodata of a Time Lord, and it turns out to be the Doctor, and we find out what that's all used for. So we don't need to get through all the plot stuff. But did the plot itself work for you? Did it hold together? Were there big holes or?
No, not really. I mean, Omega being who he was would make sense that he would have some kind of vendetta against the Doctor, why he would isolate the Doctor. Bonding and stuff, it's a little bit hard. I don't know if I completely 100% find it. I mean, he's antimatter. He's got to go to our world made of matter. So he's going to make a genetic copy of the Doctor that he himself is going to be. And that should have destroyed the Doctor or taken him off the board. But because they stopped it, you had 2 of them existing simultaneously.
I don't think that's exactly it. I mean, I don't think he was I don't know, maybe. I don't think he was intending to make a genetic copy of himself in order to look like him. Maybe that was the entire thing.
Well, but at least, at the very least, they were going to merge together.
Yes, it was the bonding thing.
Right.
So you're thinking whenever
the process didn't finish.
So you're thinking when Omega first kind of takes over the Doctor, they're on the TARDIS, it goes all slow.
Yeah, when they
and then they merge
into each
other.
So
there was a problem at that point.
Yes.
Okay, right, because they do say that, and then he kind of goes spinning off into wherever.
And before he can finish, that's why the Time Lords want to kill Peter Davison or the Doctor.
So he would have, yes. No, I got that.
Right.
I get that. But
somehow he ends up there anyway, even with the Doctor still existing.
So had it worked to Omega's plan, he would have just taken over. Like his consciousness and everything would have merged directly into the Doctor, and they would have become unified as one. Right. But now he's in this weird transient state, and that's why it's like going to decay quickly, and they have to. Yes. Okay. Great. Yep. I'm with you. Okay. I think it worked. I mean, it wasn't overly complicated.
No, it makes sense.
And I like it was.
There's also I love when there's sort of the element of mystery, a whodunit type thing.
Yeah.
You don't know who the Time Lord or the High Council Time Lord that's a traitor is. Obviously, like they play it so hard that it's gonna be who's the guy that you think
the
is gonna
Castellan.
Be the bad? Castellan. And at that point you're like, oh, it's not Castellan. And then the other guy goes out of his way to be nice, and I'm like, well, it's that guy. You know, it just felt like that part was a little bit easier to figure out, but still, it was fine. I mean, it was.
I let these things wash over me and try not to solve them. I can watch a Murder, She Wrote and not guess the ending every time.
I definitely had a mixed feeling with this, and I think I match you a little bit where you had highs and lows. The last episode, part 4, was so drawn out.
The slowest chase scene ever.
Yeah, it was just really slow, and there was lots of just people walking through hallways in this particular extra. The extras themselves, I don't know if you noticed, they looked so tired. So I don't know if shooting was going on. Like every time like the guards would walk by camera, some of them just looked like they were
yawning.
This thing in. They're yawning. There's like, oh geez, all right, where are we got to be next?
Yeah.
So it felt like when it wasn't working, it just felt like sort of tired. The whole thing sort of just felt like a little bit weird. But I will say the Peter Davison as Omega being the weird space pedo, like where he was just being creepy and walking up to kids and like there's like this 5-6 second scene of just him staring at a boy, like the whole thing.
And then the smile slowly curls onto his lips,
creeping up on these kids.
I was waiting for a payoff for that. I thought, okay, he's gonna actually take over like the kid's body or something. Like I thought, like, oh, I'm smiling because I found the perfect host for my whatever before I disintegrate. No, he was just being real creepy.
He was just being a real weirdo. And then what about those weird scenes where the doctor? Okay, so we talked about the basic plot. So the High Council learns that they don't know it's Omega yet, but they know that there's some entity that is trying to bond with the Doctor.
Yeah.
It doesn't work, but if they kill the Doctor, this entity will have no way of getting into our world. And the only way he could do that is if he had the exact bio data on somebody. So they're like, easy solution, we kill the Doctor, everything's fine. Which is kind of dark and weird.
Super dark.
Still the Doctor's sort of friendly with these people, but they're monsters, which was kind of interesting.
You could see it from their point of view.
Right. So all of that's going on, and the Doctor is executed. Now, the High Council doesn't know one of them is a traitor and has stopped the process so the Doctor doesn't die, and the Doctor gets put into sort of that weird netherworld where he's dead but not dead. And there's that weird sort of vibrating, it almost looks like it's a weird porno type thing where Tegan is angled and the Doctor's angled, and they're all vibrating in this weird sexcapade 80s thing that's going on.
It got real hot.
They show that a lot. It's just a weird scene, man.
I have it on loop. It is hot stuff. Okay, there's a lot going on.
Lots of vibrations.
So you brought up a whole mess of stuff there. So first of all, the destruction of the Time Lord. They say that this only happened once before, which
so there's precedent for.
I had to go back and look that up. That was Morbius. So like the brain of Morbius that we reviewed. So that was the one they had destroyed because he was that warrior, Time Lord that kind of wanted to go on conquest. So that was interesting. So I guess none of them had actually experienced one before because, or at least some of them hadn't, because the Castellan and Colin Baker. Sorry, I can't remember his name. It's Colin Baker in my head.
The Commander
Maxwell. That's it. Sorry. So they say, was that what you expected to be? No, not me neither. It's just that suspicious about it. So the Doctor's body gets put behind a force field so that no one can see him, and he's still in the chamber, and then his brain goes into the Matrix.
Right. Yeah, that's what I should say. He was in the Matrix. Right. So one point of the Arc of Infinity is in Holland, and then the other one they're going to directly point towards the Matrix, and then he would have control of the Matrix.
So
and using that power, he would allow him to do the conversion from one dimension to the other dimension.
Yeah.
Right.
So backing up, the Arc of Infinity itself is what they call this point in space where a Q star had imploded, and it allows
goddamn Q stars, man.
I know, man, always imploding. So it is, it creates a gateway to other dimensions, and it also is the magnetism that it creates, a special type of magnetism, will allow the antimatter to exist, be shielded in the matter world without, I guess the two of them collide and everything blows up. So that's why it's there. Omega is going to move, shift that Arc of Infinity over them into the over Gallifrey and kind of take over the Matrix, because they'll have the power of the Ark of Infinity combined with the power of the Matrix does eventually allow him to take it over. And that curvature going also to Amsterdam, I mean, sure, to allow him this whole thing. Some of that's just like,
that
okay,
just
fine,
like
fine,
a way
fine.
to funnel the power of the Matrix to do whatever. But
exactly.
And then he needed water there was a reason why that was for
they just needed hydrogen.
The hydrogen, right? So that was the
most abundant atom in the universe, but they had to go to Amsterdam because of the water.
Everything's fine.
I felt like this story was so dense with references to things that we have seen before. So characters like Omega coming back, and things like concepts like the Matrix and this recall circuit that they talk about, which I think was kind of invented for this, because I can't find any reference to it other times, but they say like this recall circuit that brings the TARDIS back to them has only been used twice before.
Right.
But I can't find any reference to where that actually happened, so please correct me. But so it's a mix of like, oh, should I know this thing? Or is this just newly invented, but it feels like it's been around forever? Which is good. I mean, that they were able to weave these things together. It just makes it very dense in some cases where I'm just like, all right, I guess they had to be below sea level because what they wanted to shoot in Amsterdam.
So that was throwing you out, and not the fact that the costumes and stuff look like someone had cut out like an egg container and painted it and put it on the top of the High Council of Gallifrey's heads. Like, was their helmets too small? Like, all of them too small? Like, none of them fit right. It felt like they were washed and somehow shrunk and washed. Like, everything just felt too small. Like, some of the, like, you could feel sort of budget straining going on, I think, on a lot of the costuming and the decoration and stuff.
But there was a lot of it, though. Maybe that's the case, but there was so much. I mean, tons of guard costumes, unless there were like 3 of them and they just kept swapping people in and out of them.
I guess what I mean is, like, we're not making you a new one. You're wearing the hat of the person that played this, but it doesn't fit. That's fine.
They had half a dozen, like, Time Lord from the Council. They had all these guards. They had incidental people like Damon and Taylor. They had all these location shots. I'm assuming everything that's inside the Citadel is constructed set, and everything outside that, like the crypt and all that. I don't know if the crypt was actually location. I mean, obviously exterior shots were, but like inside the crypt, it looked really great, but it would have to be on a soundstage because they modified it to have like the TARDIS behind,
right,
where the chicken monster would come out.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about the chicken monster, the giraffe bird or whatever that thing was.
The Ergon.
Not the scariest looking creature.
I would say when I first no, it is not scary. When I first saw it, the tail looks like the tail from Alien. Like they had that little segmented vertebrae sort of tail with a point on the end, but the head of a chicken. Was it? Because when it's standing there and in like the last episode of the story, or the third episode of the story, Omega's standing there and he has the Ergon beside him, and I swear to God, it's just sitting there moving its head like a chicken. It just keeps tilting.
Yeah,
and
it's like one of those things that you would put on your desk that would just go up and down and like hit a key on a
Yeah. But I mean, it was very specifically a chicken. But, I mean, maybe Omega just likes chickens because he created it with his mind brain. So
yeah, and he also, as you mentioned, we talked briefly about Tegan's cousin, who's Damon, right? Is Damon the cousin?
No, Damon is the friend.
Damon's the other dude. Okay, the friend.
Damon is the friend on Gallifrey, the one who works in the computer room.
Okay, yeah. Damon's.
No.
Who are the two people, the backpackers that spend in the youth hostels?
So we got old horse teeth Robin.
Oh,
and then little zombie Colin. Colin is the cousin, the one who turns into a zombie. Robin's the one with the horse teeth.
We've got a package for this missing guy. I'll just give it to some stranger.
Whoever needs it, just take it.
That's fine.
Oh, just get this off our desk.
Police may want
paperwork.
That's fine. Just give it to these people that may or may not.
We're in Holland. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's cool. Yes, we got those 2 backpackers. What'd you think of that whole? There was a whole lot of intercutting in the beginning, back and forth with them. Between that and the intrigue, I'm like, where is this going to sync up? Because it really ruins the momentum.
The setup was just to get a reason for Tegan to be there, but realistically, I mean, you could have had this take place in, near the airport. Somehow, like, Tegan could have been the one that was taken over. and not had the backpackers at all, and then the
Right.
doctor would have seen Tegan and rescued her.
That would have been fine.
But
I don't know why they did that.
There was a lot of padding. It felt like in this.
It was definitely, the fourth episode was all padding. It was just, they had to go from hostel to hostel. I'm surprised they didn't show them going into every single hostel and getting turned down. That took forever. Slow chase scene. We did get to see the doctor
we did get to see
and
several pedestrians get knocked over. I think there's at least two, and the doctor's like, "You're fine.
It's fine.
You'll be all right."
The doctor knocks one woman over and knocks her groceries everywhere. Yeah.
And then they
Nisa
try to pick
tries
them up,
to help.
They fall out. More fall out.
More fall out.
Oh god.
And then they're following Omega, who had knocked over a guy in an alleyway, and the doctor's like, "He's fine." But Tegan and Nisa stop to ask him, "Is he okay?" And he comes back and yells at them to keep going.
He did yell a couple of times at people, like in this episode, where he has that switch where he becomes not a very friendly doctor.
Yeah, he does have, behind that blonde hair and big chompers, he's not always the nicest guy.
So weird.
Yeah. So what are some other things in this one? We do get some reference. We get the doctor asks about Leela, which is kind of cool.
But what was the Leela reference?
We get reference. That. Yeah. So they're in the control room. Colin Baker Maxwell is guarding over them. Damon and Nisa come in, and he's allowed to have a moment. This is before he's supposed to get executed. He's allowed to have a moment alone with them, and as they're walking away back to Nisa's room, they're kind of talking loudly to be like, "Oh, what's going on?" To like kind of say like, we're not really plotting anything.
Right.
And he asks about Leela, and they mention Leela is happily married to she had left the story because she had fallen and left the show. The character left traveling with the doctor in order to be with this guard on Gallifrey that she had fallen in love with. She's happily married with him.
That's cool. And that was a story we did not cover. So.
Yeah, so that's kind of nice. She's
I missed that.
To,
I just missed that. Originally I thought you were talking about the Romana thing.
Yes, they also mentioned Romana as well because the doctor did not bring her back when he was asked, because he says, "Why did you use the recall circuit? I would have come back if you had asked." And like, well, you didn't bring Romana back, but. Right. She did what she wanted to do.
So we're going to kill you.
So
then,
we're going to kill you.
Later you're going to save us. So
yeah, as always.
Cool. What else?
Yeah,
we got?
so that was kind of nice. We got a little reference.
You have anything else to cover for this? I think we hit all the stuff.
I'm sorry if there's any.
I enjoyed it for the most part. Like it was, I have no really big issues with it. I did find some parts kind of boring. A little drawn out. Oh, you have something good.
Yeah, I mean, there was one thing. So it goes on for a very long time. This hiding of the identity of who the saboteur is, or the person conspiring with Omega. Mm-hmm. When you see those scenes, it's shot over the shoulder and in silhouette, so you can't tell who it is, and the voice is altered as well. Like you can't tell. Otherwise, you would have known all along who it was. If Hedden had just talked in his normal voice, you're like, oh, that's Hedden. But he talks in a kind of squeaky, kind of pitched voice.
Yeah.
And so then when they turn and reveal that it's him, it's like, well, does he just talk to Omega that way? Why? Yeah. Like, is someone listening?
I just thought that was more for the viewer.
Yeah, but they could have just said, it's being transmitted over a thing and whatever, and like the voices, anything. Yeah. It just felt really dumb. The other thing that made me crack up is when you're seeing this over the shoulder, reverse like 3/4 shot, he's acting with his hands like crazy.
He's really
selling. It's all hands, and they're tapping each other, and he's holding this thing. What is the thing he's holding?
He is a little over the top.
It is so much hand motion acting. I really felt the pathos coming through his fingers, so it was effective.
Now, what did he get out of it? What was his whole get from betraying his own people? I mean, they played it off like he I don't know. He did know, but he was
he didn't know that Omega was crazy. Like, he didn't know the extent that Omega had just gone insane by being trapped in the antimatter dimension for all this time,
and not having physical form. It was enough for him to execute the Doctor, who he had a previous relationship with. They were friendly.
I don't think he the fact that it was going to be the Doctor was incidental. It just happened. It had to be the Doctor because of X, Y, and Z. He said because of all these factors, it has to be the Doctor. He says at the beginning. So I think that's fine. I just don't think it had that part of the plot was, yes, we get to kill the Doctor. It was that I can bring back Omega, who is this hero. You know, he's one of the founders of the Time Lord Society. He's one of the founders of the Time Lord Society with Rassilon.
Well, I get that if he's more. That's what I'm.
So he just didn't
he's more of a follower of Omega, but I think he totally knew the Doctor was going to be killed as a result.
No, he did. He knew that. Yes, he did. But that wasn't the point of it. That was like an unfortunate. To me, it seemed like that was an unfortunate byproduct. You have to break some eggs to make the omelet. Like, okay, he's going to get sacrificed to bring back this hero of Time Lord Society, which was ultimately.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, his motivation to me wasn't.
It was unclear. I just felt like he was just trying to restore, in his mind, was a hero of Time Lord Society, unwitting to the fact that the guy was batshit crazy.
No, and I thought that's also what was one of the elements of the show I really liked, was about Omega and how he's banished to this horrible world all alone, and how depressing that is, and how all he really wants to do is go home.
Yeah.
And so I found myself sympathizing with him, and I could definitely understand why he would want to come back, and you really do feel bad for him. And he sort of commits suicide at the end. Essentially, he forces the Doctor, or what he thinks he's gonna, he's
gonna take everyone with him. Yeah.
So he sort of pushes his hand, and the Doctor has a gun. He's like, "Don't make me do this," whatever. And he sort of rushes him. So that was interesting. I like that they built upon that a little bit. So I totally get Omega's thing. I just the guy that was sort of friends with the Doctor, and he wanted to bring back Omega because was Omega going to do something or give him power or create, seemed like
it doesn't matter. The
kind of weird.
Castellan shot him anyway, so bye Hedden. The one thing I really wish they had developed a little bit more was more time with just Tegan and Robin walking around Amsterdam, starting their own mystery club.
Yeah,
I mean that could have been a real good spin-off story, whole serial, aka like the Sarah Jane Adventures. But
I like that they gave Tegan some business to do, and so she had to solve a certain thing, like find her cousin.
Yeah.
But there was really nothing there.
There was no payoff to
coffee. They had coffee or whatever, and she was like, "Tell me what you know, and I'll go to the police." And then before then they were there, and then she was a prisoner. So
I mean,
felt like they I don't know. That should have been built up a little bit more.
Well, like you had said earlier, it could have just been her from the outset without the backpackers.
Yeah.
But at least we did, even though they didn't go that route, the simpler route, more direct route. We got something for her to do, which
they
was nice.
gave her she did send a secret message to the Doctor via the sex room, or the vibrating sex room, rather.
Vibrating sex room, yep.
Where she does that weird sort of code thing where she says, I can't remember what it was. She says a couple of things that the Doctor's able to figure out.
Right. She mentions the hostel basically in a coded way, but she could have just given an address. I don't know. It was just
because
he said he'd kill her if she did.
He would kill her if she did.
I know.
So she said that, and she also, I guess, was able to say behind the statue or behind the fountain or whatever.
Yeah.
She slipped that in, but at least it was something.
Yeah. Did you like the any of the set designs, that sort of thing? I'm always very particular about
I thought was very cool.
Yeah. What about in the Citadel? Like they had 3 or 4 different locations within like the hallways.
No,
multiple
it's
hallways.
Mostly just hallways, right? And you had the council room,
the computer room, the council room. Yeah, I liked it. I just thought it was really good.
Other than like the costume things where it felt like things didn't fit. Omega's head was very smushy.
What's the deal with the interface to the Matrix? The little crown with jewels that floats down out of the sky onto their heads, and then they're in the Matrix, and then it floats away. You see the president do it. The Lord President at the beginning. That's how he interfaces with it. And then Davison, when he's going to enter the Matrix, it comes over his head. It was just weird. It looked cheesy as heck because it is green screen floating in and out off of his head. But it was one of the only really bad green screen effects in this whole story. It just seemed like they didn't need to do that. He could have just used his hand and put it on or off. It just, like, okay, I'm being picky, but that just bugged me.
I'm afraid that's how they do things, Dan.
I don't know. It's just that because everything else looks so good comparatively, that looked really, really bad to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, the sets were fine.
I thought the costuming was
thought the
great.
Costuming was...
Except for the ill-fitting thing.
To me,
but the overall design looked really good.
Had sort of some...
All right.
Some issues. It was fine. I like the crypt. The crypt stuff looked really cool. I love the fact that Omega is in there because I think he's a really interesting character. And what's his ultimate fate in this? He sent back to where he came, or destroyed forever?
Well, the Doctor even says that they thought he was destroyed before, so I don't think anyone knows.
All right. I'm sure he returns in some.
I'm not going to look it up because I don't want to get spoiled for it. So who knows?
But it was cool. I mean, again, middle of the road. I think this episode was.
I thought half of it was great, and then the other half just dragged so long. So it's another one of those, like, if this had been 3 episodes, this might have been great, which is so much better than the 6 episode stories that should have been 2. So overall, it's fine.
Was the 6th one.
I would have not completed. Okay, so overall, middle of the road, but overall, fine.
I've seen a lot worse.
Yes.
And there was plenty of good stuff in it.
Yeah.
For all the reasons that we brought out. But next time, we're going to jump right into Snake Dance, which I also know nothing about, so I'm looking forward to that. I guess we're doing just about every...
We're doing a little run here in order.
Every story in this season, which ends with the 5 Doctors, right? Because this is an anniversary season.
It's the 20th season.
20, so this is also the same time that they do the 5 Doctors, so that's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Anything else, Dan?
No, I think that's it for this story, but we can go and talk about some listener feedback.
Yeah, we got some listener feedback and some reviews. If you want to be part of the listener feedback or reviews, you can email us at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com. You can let us know what you thought of this story, what you think of the next story. Ideally, you'll do that. You'll watch it while we're watching it and let us know, and we can read your feedback. You could follow us on Twitter and Instagram at TODW Show. Facebook, we're on facebook.com/TODWS. And please leave us a review on iTunes, unless you're like one of the people that left us a review on iTunes that we have to talk about.
You want to jump right into it?
Yeah, Old Dr. Shoe. Old Dr. Shoe. The Old Dr. Shoe
Show.
The Old Doctor Who Show promises we have to read it, although I don't want to read all of it.
Yeah.
But why don't you give us one? We finally got a 1-star review. I mean,
guys, we did it.
We finally made it. We're at the point where
people hate us.
We no longer have perfect 5-star scores.
Yeah, I want to say thank you to everyone who has taken the time. I mean, the fact that you even take the time to review is awesome. The fact that all of you have given us 5 stars, deserve it or not, is really very nice of you. Then we get this review from someone calling themselves Corey Haim's Robot.
Yeah, which is a deep cut reference to the show. So obviously they're listening to the show. If you're making
that's the thing that makes me so happy. Like, thank you for taking the time to use that. That's really cool that you went and found that reference in order to give us a 1-star review, which reads as follows: These guys are annoying and always talking over each other. Eric, do we always talk? I don't know. We never even talk about it. So that's not inaccurate.
Whatever. Then he goes on. That's not. He says that he's got bad cousins at Thanksgiving. Listen.
Hey, buddy, just let me read this thing.
All right.
Stop talking over me.
All right. Yeah.
They don't actually seem to know what the hell they are talking about, and somehow take this as a point of pride for them. Heck, I will say, we're not that kind of show. I don't know all the canon. I'm watching this as a fan for the first time. Part of it is I don't want to get spoiled about reading future stuff, because every time I go to these Wikipedia type pages, it links to all these other things that tell me all the stuff I don't want to know, and I just want to know the things about this story. So if we get things wrong, we get things wrong. That's fine. Anyway, sorry, we're getting very defensive, guys, but
I haven't said anything.
I'm getting very
There's no reason to be defensive. Not everybody's going to like the show.
Yeah,
That's the only thing we know is everybody has their own opinion, and nobody will ever love this guy. Those are the only 2 things that I know for a fact. I mean, he doesn't go on. He talks about you're at Thanksgiving with 2 cousins that you dread.
Yeah.
You're the guy at Thanksgiving that people dread.
Guy, it's fine. Just don't come to our Thanksgiving anymore. I'm sure there are dozens of other Doctor Who podcasts that are probably much more up their alley.
You're going to hit one. But yeah.
Anyway, thank you for taking the time to review us. That's fine. It just hurts like heck. Okay, so but we do have some other stuff. So that's our 1-star review. Got through that easily. We did get some feedback on Twitter, because I was letting you guys know that this is the one that we're about to record. the responses we got were uniformly negative about this story, and I don't know if that's the way it is across the entire world of Who. You just heard us say that we're kind of in the middle of the road, but leaning more towards positive overall. Yeah. So Gallifrey Forums, at Gallifrey Forums on Twitter, says, I like Arc of Infinity. I won't say it's the best story ever, but I like it. I think we're 100% on board with that one. At Jeff Waddle 68 on Twitter says, I like the opening and closing credits of the story. That's a lie. I don't even like them. Though I love the podcast, obviously. Thank you, Jeff. That takes away the sting of our one-star review. He does say the chicken pantomime monster masquerading as Omega's servant, he can get to cluck. Sure. I'm with you on that, though. The pantomime monster, chicken monster. Okay, so then we have our friend Bernard JKD on Twitter. Gave us a lot of great feedback on this. Where he actually points out Davison's face when he realizes that Tegan's back. He gets him every time.
Pained.
He's so pained. So I had, if you check our timeline on Twitter, you'll see that reaction shot because that just makes me laugh. So thank you for the tweets at us. We'll put some more GIFs up on the timeline there before the show goes live on Wednesday. You can find all the rest of them on the show page at theolddoctorwhoshow.com. We did get a bunch of emails as well, so let me just get to those kind of quickly here. Already taking a whole bunch of time, so I'm going to try to fly through this. Carrie writes to us about Earthshock, saying that she hasn't quite listened to the Time Flight episode yet, but she does point out that Big Finish is considered canon because we did have some question about that. So I'm guessing everything's kind of canon.
Yeah, so that would mean Adric is alive, right? Because there is that Big Finish story where Adric did not die, so that's interesting. Thank you, Carrie, too.
Yeah, so thank you. And we had asked specifically about people who had watched Earthshock at the time when they were kids. Carrie says, you asked for that recollection. She says, I'm old enough to remember seeing this on Channel 2 PBS when I was a kid. I was shocked that it looked like he had died, and I thought it was weird that it seemed like the story had ended when there was another episode. Wait. I'm sorry. This is hard for me to read.
Dan is just learning how to read. He's gotten up to like the level 2 books, so you have to...
Oh, gosh. I'm going to start this over again. Maybe Eric can edit this part out or not. Carrie says, you asked for people who saw Earthshock when kids. I'm old enough to remember seeing this on Channel 2 PBS when I was a kid. I was shocked that it looked like he had died, and I thought it was weird that it seemed like the story had ended when there was another episode, obviously, when they would show how they rescued Adric. I see. Okay. It was just a complicated sentence. So you were thinking when you saw this, like, oh, there must be another story. How is he going to come back? She continues, I did not realize Adric had died until the next week. I was very used to the cliffhangers and just thought it was another one, so it dawned on me very gradually that Adric had died. That's an interesting take. You're right. They can kind of lead you down that road of expecting these sort of twists.
Because for us, like, we know definitively start and end of all these serials, but if you've been watching it on TV, you may think that, it's a 6-parter.
Yeah. And just to continue that thought, finally, you probably know by now that Adric was not the first companion to die. It was the first episode I saw in which one died, but there's a lost episode called The Daleks' Master Plan that was basically a companion massacre. Depending on how you count the companions, he lost between 1 and 3 companions. So in some of those things, these are companions for that story, and then they die. But that happens in almost every story now. Someone dies in every story, and they have some contact with the Doctor. So I don't know if you can kind of consider that. But anyway, Carrie, thank you so much. I said I wasn't going to ramble, so we can get through some of these. But thank you so much for writing in. This is a return writer, so thank you for that. Okay, so Jim is writing back in to say he was re-listening to the podcast and said that we were wondering about Nisa's age, and they said that she was 2 years old.
Now, is that
keep her
true?
track of the story. I don't
is that
recall
a joke, or did we really miss that?
We may have missed it.
Yeah, I couldn't tell from I couldn't read his tone whether that was sarcasm that she was 2 years old. She can't be 2 years old.
She's very precocious 2-year-old. No, I can't think that's the case because of the whole flashback to the way she was guarding over the statue in the Keeper track in for years, taking care of it.
Yeah, we saw her get older.
Yeah.
Right? Didn't we see she was a little kid? And then
although that might have been a very compressed timeline. It was over the course of a week.
He goes on to
say,
child actors.
Also, you have continuously made such a fuss over Adric that I'm now paying attention to this actor, whom I never gave a second thought to. When I looked up his biography on Amazon, the reviews told me that he had devoted a chapter of his book to denigrating Tom Baker and Lala Ward. Still have not read that book yet. I will get to it eventually. Whom he never worked with. That told me right away there was something very off-kilter. Oh, right, because he had never worked with Lala. Okay, fine. He says some child actors never get a chance to grow up normally and end up in a bad way, etc., etc. Many examples to be cited in that case. Please don't continue to bash poor Adric. Just be glad he got a chance to grow up without being in the fishbowl of fame. Hey, we just don't like what they did with the character very much.
Yeah, and I feel like it's possible that maybe Jim hasn't listened to our Earthshock review. We sort of go into that. And I feel like many times we talk about feeling bad for doing those things. So it's nothing against the actor. These are just people
we're just trying to make each other laugh.
You know, I think we were pretty clear. We felt like he was completely underdeveloped and underused.
Yeah.
But
he was a fairly annoying character because he was underused and not that was not entirely his fault. And we did actually have a big heartfelt turnaround on him. So we liked him. Moving on, Trevor wrote in with some nice things to say. So Trevor said he started with the Terror of the Autons, is now 3/4 of the way through Robots of the Death. He's almost finished 8 seasons, and he's working his way forward, which is kind of cool. So far, I'm loving it. I think I'm more of a Pertwee guy, but for companions, I like Sarah and Leela way better than Joe Grant. So I'll call it a watch. I like Sarah, but I like Joe Grant better than Leela. So that's just me. I like Joe a lot. He says very enjoying listening after every serial to see what we're doing here. As I don't know anyone else following along with the classic series, and I don't have anyone to talk to about it like I do for the reboot and other current shows I'd like to watch. So that's honestly where we're coming at from this. So I'm glad that you're taking it that way. It's just Eric and I talking about these stories together because we have no one else to talk to about it. So you guys get to listen in.
Alone.
We're all alone. And our significant others won't watch them with us either. So you guys are our surrogate significant others that we can talk to. So I'm glad that you're getting the same value out of this as we are when we get to talk to each other about this. So that's great. We also, guys, so this is the emails that were sent in directly. So that's really nice of you guys. We also get comments on the website. So you can comment on actually any page on the site. But if you want to go to specific story pages.
Yeah, every episode we have as a comment section.
You can just comment right there. And we do get those as well. We got a comment on Time Flight from Michael, saying that he's glad we found a silver lining in the story. Recently rewatched it, was unimpressed from the bubble wrap footage to the predominantly middle-aged passengers half-heartedly trying to break into the power source.
Pretty bad. I mean, I think that even that episode or story is just not very good. I never want to watch Time Flight again.
Michael does say, I'm in Concord with your comments on the use of Concord. So thank you for that. Thank you, Michael, for that comment. We got a comment from way back, our third story, which was the first ever story, Unearthly Child. This is a comment that says, from Sean, if you haven't found it yet, the first sonic screwdriver was in the Troughton serial Fury from the Deep, where it was basically a pen light that very slowly drove screws sonically.
And that's
not a story it does make sense. Yeah. We didn't do that story yet. I don't know if we're going to come back
I don't know if it's on our list.
I don't think it's on the review.
We'll
so we got Sean also commented on number 4, Tomb of the Cybermen. It's very sad that 2/3 of Troughton stories are incomplete at best. That is true. It's sad. And it's sadder that the ones that are there aren't all that good. And does have some recommendations for us of ones that we should go back and
one of them was Power of the Daleks, which we did
do.
So he may not, Sean, you may not be aware. We sat through that, which I never want to sit through that animated movie again.
It kind of turned me off the animated redos entirely.
Yeah.
I'm kind of worried about that. And lastly, Sean, on fire this week, commenting on number 6, Doctor Who and the Silurian, saying, I see you skipped Inferno, the serial after this one. I highly, highly, highly recommend going back and watching that one at some point. Probably the best Pertwee serial. So we will go back.
I think that's worth adding to the list with that kind of recommendation. So
yeah, Eric will take care of that.
Added.
Thank you guys again. Thank you for all the comments on the website.
That's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of feedback.
So
if
thank you for
as
those.
we mentioned all those things, if you want to leave a review, like maybe a 5-star review to
Maybe a 10-star review to kind of compensate.
Overcompensate.
We're never going to mention this again. This
No, but that's the
horrible,
promise.
horrible
Whatever
pain
you
in
guys,
our hearts.
Whatever you guys write, we have to read. So,
So we're going to do it.
So please be gentle.
So thank you for the feedback. Twitter, TODW Show on Twitter. Also the Facebook page, facebook.com/
Yeah, we gave them all that.
Dr. Show.
I threw that
You can follow me directly on Twitter at DanJNJ. You can follow
and
Eric.
I'm at E. Grissom.
You can see all the comic book stuff that Eric's got going on.
Yeah, and if you want to pre-order Gregory Suicide, which comes out in October of this year, you can go to ericgrissom.com/Gregory Suicide, and that should send you to the Random House page, I think, which has all of the pre-order links.
You should also just get the one-shot Gregory Suicide while you're waiting for that one to come out.
Yeah, and you get that for free. You can go right to my website, ericgrissom.com, and if you sign up for the newsletter, which I rarely send, I haven't even sent one out yet, you give me your email, and then you get the PDF.
Yeah, so check that out. All right. So
well,
until
Dan. Until
3
next
weeks from
time.
now.
Until who? We just talked over each other.
Over each other when we're
entire
trying to
end.
We should try to be better about this, guys. All right.
All right.
Until then. Bye.
Hung up in beds on a stranger, just trying to swing a full-time ride. I never knew the cold handled danger till I met this one and took it inside.